morning, Luke. Thank you so much for giving me your time this morning and coming to talk to me. Really, really do appreciate it and know how busy you are at the moment. So thank you very much indeed. If you could start us off by just telling everybody who you are and a little bit about your setting, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Of course. My name is Luke Page. I am the head of school at Triangle Nursery School, which is one of the 5 maintained nursery schools in Lambeth. We're federated together. I am the Senko and I'm the head of school. And Triangle has evolved quite a lot over the last 3 years. So we've become, as we all have had to be, quite creative over the last couple of years. So we have 3 and 4-year-old provision, which we've had for many years. We've got 2-year-olds now, as a lot of maintained nursery schools are having. And we've also got a nurture space, which is our version of a resource space, which is part funded by the local authority. So children with complex needs can come and attend a mainstream setting with access to a resource space.
Excellent, thank you. That sounds fabulous. So you mentioned the creativity and changes that we've had to all adapt to over the last 18 months because of the impact of the pandemic. And I know from the conversation we had earlier, this is something you've worked really hard on. We'd be really particularly interested in when you were telling me about a need that you'd identified within your setting. If you could just tell us a little bit more about what you'd identified.
Of course. I mean, I think, you know, all practitioners in schools should be able to call themselves creative now. I think we've all had to work, especially in early years, as we've worked through. But I think what we're seeing generally with children and families through the pandemic is there's been this shift really in kind of expectation really upon children by people that are working with them. So we've always had quite a high number of vulnerable children and families at Triangle. It ranges between kind of 50 to 70% of children on roll, with quite significant vulnerabilities. And as we all know, the pandemic has really made those vulnerable children even more vulnerable, with less access to services, healthcare, and social experiences. So we've seen a real shift in children's language. They're using less words. Children's social interaction, their understanding of their own emotions and the emotions of others are a challenge. Just in terms of social interaction, you know, children have not had those opportunities, and a lot of adults haven't been able to practice that over the last couple of years and do that on a daily basis. So I think a lot of people have become quite insular, and a lot of parents have become or attempted to become educators over the last couple of years and focus on academic development. And we've seen a bit of a shift where parents are being told to focus upon children's academic development with their writing and their reading and catching up with school and what they're losing, and maybe less of an emphasis upon their self-care skills. So for us, the real thing that we've noticed is self-care skills with our 2, 3 and 4-year-olds who, on the whole, children join us and they can put on their shoes, they can take off their shoes, attempt to put on their coats, eat with a spoon and so on. We're not seeing that at the moment. We're seeing a significant percentage of children who just really struggle with those self-care skills. They're not eating by themselves. They're not sleeping in their own beds. More children than ever before who still have dummies and bottles and buggies, because they haven't really gone through the processes they may have done in a typical year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that's had a big impact on parents and parental mental health as well, hasn't it? The struggles of the last 18 months and the pressures on them also. So you were telling me a bit about what you'd done once you'd identified this need, and if you'd share with us what you'd done, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Of course. So lots of children joined us in September, and we've done our baseline assessments, we've done our own entry assessments, and it's very, very clear that children are just not as independent as they have been. As I was saying, they're not as confident in their self-care skills, their independence. So we met as a team to discuss what it was that children were finding difficult, and it's those things like dressing, undressing, coats, shoes, aprons at the sand tray, the water tray. It's all of those things that it was just taking a long time for children to pick up. and it was something they obviously haven't practiced as much as they had in recent years. So we met together as a team and decided we were going to set what we called a self-care challenge, and we invited children to be self-care heroes, in a sense that we sent out something over half term to all parents and children to excuse me, to encourage parents to kind of get back to the basics, to think about those skills that children really needed to develop, with parents taking control of that, parents kind of adding smiley faces onto when children were demonstrating these skills. There were 6 challenges we gave, with when they then brought them back after half term, that we would present them with a certificate, and really gave lots and lots of importance of children doing things for themselves.
That sounds excellent. So how did it all go?
It was, we were worried initially. We were worried that parents might think that we were being slightly patronising, or we were being slightly too invasive of their home life. But we needn't have worried. The feedback from parents has been fantastic. They kind of almost, many of them have thanked us for giving them a bit of a focus on things that they knew should have been a focus and knew that they needed to work on. But they gave, we turned it into a bit of a game. So rather than this being a bit of a battle at home, and anybody who's had a 2-year-old knows that it can be a battle, it became a game, and it became a really positive experience for them to share together. So parents have brought them back in. I mean, parents came running in with their children the first day back, wanting to be the first ones to give in their self-care sheets, and waiting for their certificate. So they just really want to know what to do next now. They've done that. The children have done very well with that, and they want some more. They want us to give them more, really. But very, very successful. And we've noticed this week, being back since Monday, that children are asking for help less. They're having a go first. There are still a high number of children that are finding it challenging, but the fact that they're willing to have a go, and they're using the language of "I am a self-care champion," I am looking after myself, I am helping myself. It's just kind of flipped the kind of negative energy, I suppose, that was around that before, that they just didn't believe that they could, to now that they know they can. They might not be able to do everything yet, but they know they can have a good go, and hopefully achieve all of the things that they want to achieve.
Fantastic. That sounds like it's been a real boost to children, parents, and to your staff as well. So you shared with me you shared with me a template. Shall I put that up on the screen now and you can talk us through it? Is that okay?
Of course.
Right, let me see. Oops. Right, hopefully you should be able to see that on the screen now.
The good news is I can, so I'd imagine it's available for everybody.
Excellent.
It was a very simple 2-page sheet that we gave to parents, this being the first page. And really we just wanted, as I've said, to children and parents to be able to work together positively. So you can see the targets that are on there. This is the one we use for our 3- and 4-year-olds. And again, around those self-care expectations that we would want for children, being able to pull up their own underwear and trousers, put on their own coats, they can sleep in their own beds, they can feed themselves, they can wash their hands after using the toilet. And again, we introduced Makaton signs to the children for the basic emotions, and we wanted them to teach their adults at home those Makaton signs as well, recognising that the amount of frustration that everybody has felt through COVID and is still feeling it is immense. And actually, Makaton is a great way, if you're, even with adults, if you're feeling slightly overwhelmed or slightly tearful or slightly distressed with communication, actually having a gesture to go with language or instead of language, again, it's just a really, really simple way to be able to communicate in a way that children will understand very clearly. So the parents again have asked for more Makaton signs. Now they've asked us for more, and the tagline really, you can see along the bottom of the document, the tagline we would say to parents, and we have up around the school, is that if we want to raise our children to be responsible, we must give them responsibilities. We must allow them to be proud of achieving things for themselves, and we're not doing them any favours at all by doing things for them, even though it probably takes a fraction of the time. Actually, we need to allow that time for them to do it for themselves. We want them to grow up to be responsible.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So shall I flick on to the next page? There we go. Hopefully you can see that.
Yes.
Page.
Yes. No, that's come up. I mean, we again from our we've done kind of homework projects and half-term projects often, and I think for us we know we need to put some form of kind of hints and tips with parents, because what we didn't want this to be was a battle of look what we've got from school, we must do this, we need to get it done, sit down and put your shoes on. We didn't want it to be that. We wanted it to be a really positive experience, to be a supportive experience, reminding parents that they need to be consistent. You know, it will take a bit longer, but the outcome of this is going to be so significant for your child. Have fun, but also be realistic there. Be realistic that, you know, if children are tired or unwell, learning new skills is hard. Find some time when they're awake, they're well rested, they're happy, and use that time together. It just kind of gave a bit of a kind of context really for why we were doing this with parents. And again, this was the bit we were slightly worried about, with the idea of maybe we were patronising parents in the sense that we were kind of talking about quite basic things. But again, for our families who have very limited English, we were able to translate this for them. And we were able to talk to many of our children from different cultures and different parts of the world, where again, you know, self-care is looked at quite differently. And you know, the expectations are very different. So again, we could talk that through with parents, and staff could translate with why we're trying to encourage children to be independent and how we would go through that process here. And it really has had a massive impact. I mean, this is the one for our 3 and 4-year-olds, but for our 2-year provision, the number of children now putting on their own coats, we've never seen as many willing to try and put on their own coats. You know, pull down their underwear and their trousers to go into the toilet, put on their own welly boots. We're just seeing a real want for children to do that themselves. So that's worked particularly well in our 2-year room.
Brilliant, thank you. That sounds great. And like I said, that sounds like it's really boosted everybody as well. So have you got any next steps? Is there anything you're planning to do next?
So parents have asked us what next. They've asked us what they can do. So we've told them about consolidating this really. They've got their certificates now. They've got them proudly up at home. And it's about consolidating skills now. It's making sure that they keep up with all the positive praise and the opportunity to do these lovely things that they've been doing. Our intention is to look at the Christmas holiday now over 2 weeks, and offer a similar kind of challenge sheet for children to do. What we are hoping to include, and again we will have some staff meetings to confirm what will be included, but we're thinking of things like skills like empathy, about turn taking and sharing. So again, things like we may have a target on there or a challenge of I made a present, or I made a picture for a loved one, or I shared my favourite toy overnight. I let my dolly sleep with mummy, or something along those lines. Just so again, we're creating that opportunity to be independent, and for children to really understand that then unfortunately they're not the centre of the universe. And I think, you know, we all have to learn that you know, we are part of a bigger picture and a bigger social space, and they're how they can influence making other people happy, how making other people feel content, and so on. So that's where we're going with it at the moment. And again, parents are asking for this already. We won't be doing this probably until Christmas, but again, we will see. It might have to go out earlier. But that's what we're aiming to do, a similar kind of project again, with a real focus on PSED and emotions.
That's brilliant. And the fact that you've got parents asking for this and really wanting to engage with it as well, it sounds like it's been a real support to the whole family unit. So yeah, brilliant. Congratulations on that project. It sounds like you've done a wonderful job, and thank you very much indeed for sharing it with us. So thank you. You're again. Very welcome. So thank you again, Luke, for giving me your time this morning. Really do appreciate it and know how busy you are. So many thanks again.